Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to staining the staining the Surfer Girl Wudtone on the guitar we're building. So this is day 2. This was around 3 o'clock yesterday. I put the first coat on, and it's around 3 o'clock Eastern time the next day, and here we have the guitar. Now the neck is not the tightest fit in the pocket. It's absolutely fine, perfect fit, but in case there was a little space that would be seen at any angle, I wanted to make sure that I might even just do a light coat inside that neck pocket. I kind of did the edges here, but I wasn't worried about the inner route simply because it'll always be covered, and it wastes stain, honestly, to be covering that up. But I did do the rear, because in the rear, if someone wants to leave their trim cavity exposed so that you can see the springs, and that's what I like to do. I think it looks really cool when you can see the springs in the back. So I'm treating that entire trim cavity as if it's body. The route, obviously, no. But looking at it right now, I mean, you could literally stop right now, rub the silver highlights on it. I mean, after you knock some of it off, rub the silver highlights on it, and put the top gloss on there, and it would be done. So I don't know that it needs but one more coat. I'm not sure how well it's reading over there, but it looks terrific. And it's kind of the way this finish looks. You know, it's a semi-translucent finish where you see some wood grain peeking through. And it's gorgeous. Like when you see it up close, sometimes it photographs weird, but when you see it up close and you can see the wood kind of pushing through, it's really nice. And it shows you how little finish is really on the guitar. So my theory is that's why guys that relic guitars have had good luck with the way they sound, and that they like the way they sound. Because I think the secret is in that relicing exposes the wood, and it, you know, wears down these really thick finishes that Fenders have on them. And you look at this, like Squire, it's like just coated on, you know, like a car. And that's awesome because this guitar is like basically indestructible. But I think there's an additional extra magic that occurs when you have a guitar like this that has a thinner stain on it, because you get more vibrations when you play it, and you get more acoustic resonance in the room with you, which I do believe transfers over to the amplifier, because my ears have become so attuned to the way my guitars sound acoustically that I can tell exactly what they're going to sound like through my amp. I couldn't say that I would know exactly how they're going to sound through anybody else's amp, but I know what the guitar sounds like, and I know what my amp does to the sound from there, and it's like I can literally just hear it. So that's important to me. So I really like, that's what got me into this, and also just the practicality of it, being able to do this at home. This has just been hanging in the bedroom, no problem, you know, hanging indoors. So not an issue. So it's a really cool way to go. So what I'm going to do, first things first, on day 2, is I'm going to put these gloves on. Going back to these gloves, I've got these little rubber gloves hanging up. Those will be only for the stain. I don't want to get any dust or any crud on them. So I'm actually going to move those out of the way right now before anything stupid happens. And then I've got a little cheap towel here on the floor that I'm going to just kind of sort of drape around the legs of this drum thing and put on the floor, so that the dust or whatever comes off of the steel wool will not be you know, on the floor. So that if somehow, you know, the guitar came in contact with it, I'm trying to keep the guitar, you know, away from dust. And what I'll do is, in between sanding this off, I'll come and vacuum, or maybe just sweep up and just try to get the area clean of any, you know, debris. So between coats, you're going to take your quadruple zero steel wool. This is like, you know, very non-abrasive steel wool. It's exactly what you need. And I've got my light here because I really want to take a look at this, because you can see how it cures overnight. It gets a little bit of it leaves a little bit of a residue behind that we want to knock off, so that that doesn't build up between coats. So I'm going to go very slowly, very carefully at first. You know, I've always tried to go more on the careful side because you can always go back and do it some more. So you'll see that I'm being very gentle, just carefully doing this, you know, so as I don't go too far with it. And once again, I'm going to kind of try to go with the grain. I may go against it here and there if there's a stubborn spot that seems like, you know, it's where it shouldn't be. So I'm just letting it kind of crawl across the surface. I'm not putting any kind of like major force, you know, I'm not like pushing in. And aesthetically, this body is a 2 or 3 piece body. I haven't ascertained yet how many pieces of wood here are involved here. But, you know, this is a different piece of wood here that takes the stain differently. And it took it much more like in a thick manner as opposed to this wood, which is exposing the grain. So what you can do, I mean, I think it looks cool where it's varied, but if you want to make it match up more aesthetically, you can kind of work on that space and take some of the paint away. So I can just kind of go like this, and I'm just kind of eliminating a little bit of that stain so it doesn't look so thick there. Take the light here and see how much I knocked off. And yeah, it's not fuzzy anymore. There's a little bit of fuzz here and there. So I'll go over it again. But what I'm doing here is the idea, and here I'm just kind of flicking at it. I'm not even putting any real pressure on, and I can see where the wood caught some of the steel wool. So after this is done, it'll really need to be clean, you know, dusted off and cleaned, just to make sure that you haven't left any of this stuff behind. So as you can see, I'm going to just go on and continue doing this, and then when I come back, we'll put coat number 2 on. Okay, I wanted to pop back on real quick and just tell you that on this color and on poplar, now I can't see, your mileage may vary with alder, swamp ash, mahogany, whatever you choose to use. But with this wood, which I believe is poplar because it's very soft and just looks like it, the body really sucked the stain in the best kind of way. That's why, like, you only really are going to need one more coat to get there, because otherwise it'll just get too thick. And I've been working at it with steel wool, like with my Flying V, which used the Cherry Flamenco, which involved a deep top coat, a slightly less deep next coat, slightly less next coat. So it's 3 color coats, with the first one being the reddest. The other ones were a little darker and not as much, they were thinner. And then finally you put on the top coat at the end. So it was a lot of coats. It took like 2 weeks. And some of it had to dry for like 48 hours instead of 24 hours. And anytime I would go and do this between coats, I had to be so careful. You could literally just watch the stain begin to, you know, disappear in a way that made you have to go do another really thick coat to make sure you got back to where you wanted to be with color saturation. And this one, I mean, I'm going at it much more gusto. So the point of it is, the reason I wanted to just offer that up is that every guitar, all the wood is different and all the stains are different, because I'm assuming pigmentation creates different, you know, chemical reactions which react with the wood on the guitar in a different way. So anyway, this one I'm going to have to go at a little harder with steel wool, but I don't think it needs much more coverage. You know, like, I think I'm going to cover it today, and if it looks awesome, I'm going to move on to the silver highlights, because I just don't think it needs much more. It's like looking right to me. And I would like to hit it again, you know, with another full coat really covering it, and I'm going to go a little lighter with the mix. I'm going to put a little more white in this second coat. So let me finish up this cleanup work as far as, you know, knocking this stuff off and just shaping it up. I'll dust it off really well. We'll get rid of this stuff, clean up here, and then second coat of stain. Okay, I have now done quite a bit of steel wool work on this. Burnishing, I think is what they call it, where you're knocking off all the extra stuff. And I think it's because of this soft wood. I did sand it quite well, but I just think it's kind of wanting to let particles out. So, and not only that, but however the wood interacts with the stain causes the stain to do what its thing. And what it was doing is creating like a light little powder. This is completely different from mahogany. So this is interesting. I've done this twice now, once with mahogany and once with this, and the technique of doing it and all the setup is the same, but the wood differences have been profound. The way the stain reacts to the wood has been profound. And the difference between the stains has been profound. So, I find it interesting. But I hit it pretty hard with the steel wool to really get it, like, just get it smooth. Let me find my light. Got it light. And so I'm going to quadruple check here. And it looks not, I'll see every once in a while you see a little thing. That's what this is for. If it doesn't come off. See? Stuff wants to stick on there. Alright, that looks good. Really good. So I wanted to show you that this is a step I've added in with this particular, with poplar, if it's poplar. Just because it's so light, I think it's poplar, and just the way it looks and feels really soft. But hard, you know, a hard wood, but it has a softer feel to it. It's kind of like mahogany. Well, not quite. But anyway, it's soft. So this is a step I'm adding in, just this micro dusting, just to ensure that we have a dust-free, debris-free surface. All right, we're going to hit the stain next. Okay, our prep work is complete, I believe. So I'm back to my bottle here. Here's my clean jar lid. I cleaned it out yesterday. And inside, this is my mixing bottle, and inside are my stains. We're going to set the gloss, the aged top gloss, which now I'm really glad I got the aged top gloss. The other top gloss would be awesome, because it would be awesome. But this, I think, is going to take it down a notch. Like, right now, it looks a little like, you know, boom. It's like, you know, wow, a lot of color. But I think that top gloss is going to take it down. It's aged, so it'll be like the guitar's been around for a minute, you know, doing its change, morphing to what it's going to become. And it's almost like it's that top gloss will get it there quicker and just give it a more. I think it just gives it more of a richer look. You know, it's like a nice leather chair in the office suite, you know, the corporate office suite. It's one of those things. It just looks nice. I mean, not that that stuff looks that nice, but you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, here's the silver. We're going to dump that in there. All right, so now we're back down to our essentials. We got our white, we got our green. We got our mixing bottle. I kept that even sealed up so it doesn't start getting all sticky and dry. I took the top off. Here we go. So this is just by eyeball. Today, I think we've got a nice coat of green on here. I mean, it's green. It's surfer girl green. And it looks really complete. I like the way that base coat, I mean, it just went down solid. Way better than I thought it would. And I think part of it is because the wood was taking it in so much, I had to really, you know, really lay it down. So I think that's a really good, I don't think it's going to need much more than what I do today as far as the green goes. We're going to still do the silver, and then we're going to do the aged top gloss. But as far as color goes, I mean, we're just like there. And I'm going to fill in the neck, you know, just so that nothing peeks through, because the neck is not as tight of a fit as you get sometimes. Sometimes it's just right on the neck, you got to kind of push it in. This one goes in and just kind of sits there, and there's a little space on each side, so I want to make sure, I mean, it's very acceptable and normal. I just want to make sure you can't see, you know, there would be no opportunity to see a bit of raw wood. Plus, you don't want to, you know, have raw wood exposed to air or fingers or oils or anything. It starts turning icky. Okay, so got my my bottle here. What I'm going to do today, first I'm going to shake these up before I forget to do it. So I'm going to shake these up, and I think today I'm going to go with a little more white than green. So yesterday was like a straight 50-50. Today, in the tradition of Wudtone stains, usually the next coats are not as deep color, like a lighter, thinner coat. And I know that the white is going to go on thinner than the green does, because there's something about that green pigment that's really, you have to really push it in. So that might be nice. And I think our deep green is already there. You know, it's there. And I tended towards green on that first coat to make sure we got good color coverage, because I wasn't sure how I was going to react to the wood. But since it's gone so well, and I couldn't get much of it off with the steel wool, and I didn't want to. And once I got the excess, now there's a couple dry spots right around in here that I'm going to focus on with the second coat, but overall it's there. So yeah, a little more white this time. Alright, so backing off, and I've warned you about these, they strip. Don't try to tighten these down. Once you've gotten it as tight and it feels like it's still going, just stop, because it'll strip it. Alright, so I'm going to go, and this is all just, you know, feel and eyeball. I'm going to do like half of the bottle, like that. And that probably wasn't half the bottle. I still feel like I got a decent amount in here, which is awesome, because I'll be able to send the rest of this to Kevin if he wants to mess with touch-ups. If the owner, he can pass it along to the owner, and it'll give Kevin a chance to play with it if he wants to try it on a sample, because he might want to build a guitar with it. It's very captivating. When you see Wudtone's main page, they use this as their sort of display model, the Surfer Girl on a Strat. And it's just really eye-popping. Okay, so, or eye-catching. So now I'm going to go to the green, less green. I'm going to just back off that green a little bit. And maybe it's the white that feels so thick, because this shakes a lot more than the white does, like you feel it moving around more. Okay, so, and there. And I just kind of, I did less green, because I didn't do much white that first go around, like I said. Okay, so now we have our mix, and we can always do more. If I look at it and I think it's not green enough, just add a little green and we'll go from there. Actually, what I'm going to do first, I'll do a little rag test so we don't dump it all in there and then decide the color's not right. So, here's the rags. I was out of frame with the last video on how to get these rags the right size. Just dropped them on the floor for a millisecond. Let me just shake, shake, shake. Okay, so now, see how this piece is kind of sticking out? I'm going to just trim this off, because it makes it too thick. You really don't want this to be too thick. And actually there's like some, this may be a used one. I'm going to go with a fresh one. So here's the definitive 4-square trim, 4-inch rag trim. So I go like basically, you know, 4 inches in, another kind of 4 inches, and then finish her off. So this doesn't look quite big enough. Yeah, I'm actually going to, I'll save that for later though, because sometimes you want like a smaller one to get little areas. But let me just trim this the right way. So you'll notice I'm going to go all the way across here. So I'm cutting. And you'll see that the t-shirt has this seam thing on the end of it. See where the seam is? Like that line, the big line? I'm going to just cut that off. Because according to the guys at Wudtone, men and women over there, they say to not get that seam involved because it'll soak up a bunch of your stain, waste it. And sometimes these guitars are sucking that stain down. You want every little drop, you know, so you don't want to be wasting it on seams. Alright, so I think this is a nice size. And then I just kind of do like a square deal so it becomes like a sort of like an applicator pad, you know. Alright, back to business here. Let me get all this out of the way. No, want anything laying around that could make a mess or whatever. Get stuck in something. You get out of the way. Here's our color. I'm going to shake it up again. Wait, I was going to test it on the thing first. Alright, so here we go. And that's good green color. So I don't think we went too white, you know. That's going to be nice. Right, so let's see what it looks like. We might, you know, I might, seeing that, I might just drop a little more white back in there and just lighten it up a tad more. Just so we don't get too green, too deep green. It's an interesting balance, this Surfer Girl, to get it right. And I think we're there. But there's little subtle things you can do to push it right where you want it to be. And I didn't intend to like the way the brown pushes through. I think this would look good on any kind of wood. It'd look good on mahogany because the reddish nature of mahogany would be pushing through. Look good on any wood, really, as long as it, you know, I don't know enough about alder and swamp ash to know how well they take stain. I'm assuming they take it just fine because this is a cheaper body, you know. It's not some boutique body, or it wasn't built by a Fender license. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just a kind of groovy looking thing. It's like more milky. And that's what I want for the second coat. I want to move away from the super dark and get into some of this groovy, milky look. And I'm going to start on the bottom here, where I saw those little spots. And then for the camera, I'll do this here just so we can see what that second coat is going to give us, what we're going to get out of it. And you know, I'm always finishing on the up. And it's a much more subtle difference, but what's cool is if you get it the right angles, you can see it really leveling out and smoothing out beautifully. Alright, so I'm going to do my thing just like I did yesterday. I'm going to go around, start circular, push it into the wood. I need to really get under here. This, I noticed, was thin. And it's always going to be thinner now because this is the second coat, which is what's awesome about this. It's not going to look the same. It gives you something to stare at, you know. If you look at something and it's always the same, it's less intriguing. But if your eyes and your brain become used to it and accustomed to what you're seeing, it no longer provides that dopamine kick that you're used to getting from looking at the thing that inspires you. But if every time you look at it, it provides you with something new, you see something different than the last time, you'll never grow tired of looking at it, and you probably won't sell that guitar. You know, it'll become like important. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly what I'm doing right here, and I'm going to make sure to get all this so we don't have any bleed through in case the neck is not exactly pressed up against everything the way it always, you know, the way you want it to be. And that way there's no bleed over. But man, I tell you, I don't think it's going to need another coat. This is it. Tomorrow will be silver highlights. I can't wait to do that because I've always been curious about it. So anyway, thanks for hanging out and checking this out. I hope it's helping someone.